walk the soil. We exist beyond the realms of what's considered realistic. We are light from a future galaxy exploding in the illusion of time. Black lives are matter of fact. Just as a seed is a seed on the tree of life. What did you get a chance to learn? Can you read or write? Did it bear rotten fruit? Did you get a bite? Some studied Isaac Newton, we survived from the nooses. In the new world, before the prisons floated atop endless waters, you heard fathers in farthest corners send messages through coded rhythm. Children born, unification ceremonies, an encouraging reminder of the heart beating close against the breastplate, rate increased by imposition and conquest. Most ripe picked from broken branches to dance on the deck of death and debt. Precious cargo stowed, but you can't erase soul. A great storm cast down upon our village, pillaged and set ablaze for days, pulling the darkest clouds upwards from the ground to cover the sun's radiance. In the new land, drum taken yet replaced in rum barrel and stretched goat skin. We sang new songs to swing low and wade in water. The sambas are sons of the Congo and Angola. The blues a daughter of Mali. Gospel a hybrid developing at a port in Freetown, Sierra Leone. In the new land seized from the indigenous, here we are. We danced an imprint into earth, filled with tears spilling into the ocean for the one-way ride. Chained naked in the depths of beast belly, impregnating the ship, giving birth to economic prosperity for empires outside. Bound by wrist and ankle, crimson mixing with the planks, the first dance floors that brought forth the so on and so. What was the sound made by those who chose to sink and join them that did not survive on the other side? Their life force splashing percussive against the shores of all nations in the waves made by their faces, brow soaked in spirit. The dust kicked up, the clasp of hands, the songs they sang, echoing into eternity. Take a moment and think back to the most important moments in your life. How did it look? How did it feel? And most importantly, how did it sound? It is my belief that a song can do so much to bridge gaps and divide because we are a song. If you think of music as an opportunity for bringing together people of all walks of life through art, through dance, through creative writing, what are the possibilities for this culture? What can be developed through our differences to help bring us closer to one another? Whether it's the generation gap, sexual identity or preference, religious affiliation, geographical lines, or other forms of othering, music is that one thing that allows us to have a conversation across the world because we are all connected by the beating of our heart. As we know, the heart is an instrument. The heart is a drum. If we look back and we go back through this idea of diaspora, we can understand how we have gotten to the place that we are at today and how we are all connected through the heartbeat. And just as people have been transferred throughout the world through many different events of which we will speak of, we have also been connected by the genres and by the people that have stepped forth before us. Culture provides us an opportunity to connect. Hip-hop culture is the culmination of all of our differences being played at once. Hip-hop is another step in the diaspora of African music and the diaspora of African people. So to go forward, we have to look back and see how we got to our current position. Diaspora is the spreading out of one from their origin, the spreading of a seed from a tree. And if we can understand how hip-hop is functional, we can understand ourselves. Though Africa is not monolithic, we understand that in African society, and West African society in particular, that music is part of everyday life. It is not something just to be bought and sold. Music is in your cooking. Music is in your cleaning. Music is in your herding or when you plant seeds. Music is in the birthing of our children and when our elders pass on. So, what does it mean to have a song within ourselves? What does it mean when we can understand our heartbeat and connect through that heart? A few years ago, I put out a project called Pangaea with a producer by the name of Big Cats. And if anybody understands the Pangaea theory, and many scientists have hypothesized that 300 million years ago, the entire planet was one supercontinent. And on this supercontinent, you had one large mass. And through a series of violent events, each of the continents began to divide. So, what you'll see is that through these violent events that include ice ages, the receding of the waters, comets hitting the earth, plate tectonic shifts, and volcanoes, that these violent events caused a separation. By looking at the shores of all of these continents, you will find similarities in the rock formation, in the plant life, in the marine life, in the animal life. Just the same, we have separated as people. We all come from a similar and same origin, and through a series of violent events, we have separated, whether it be war, famine, sexual violence, the idea of religion, of picking one idea over another, or this millimeter of skin. So what happens when we start to see ourselves as one human race? What are the possibilities when we reconnect to each other? Hip-hop as a culture is fully integrated. It is the words that you say. It is the music that you play. The words I say as an MC or a master of ceremonies or a spoken word poet. It is the music as a DJ or a producer. It is the movement of your body as a hip-hop dancer or a break dancer, b-boy or b-girl. It is your visual representation, whether you are painting a mural on the wall or you're painting on a train so that it could travel throughout the world and show people your importance in other places. My experience as a hip-hop artist started at the age of 14, growing up in North Minneapolis, at a time when North Minneapolis was given the title Murder-apolis. I knew that to be a title, but I didn't see it in my home. I didn't see it in my friends. I didn't see it in my neighbors. And I wondered how this box had been created around me without me knowing. So I had a choice. There are two things that I could do. I could stay and believe that whatever this stereotype or idea about me was to be true, or I could venture out and start to speak for myself. I would sit on my porch and I would play this boombox. We still call them boomboxes? The speaker, the stereo system. So, predecessor to the iPod. Okay, so I would play this boombox on my porch, and there are two main things I would do in the summers. I would play the music on my porch, or I'd hop on this little ugly scooter I had, and I would ride as far as I could before it got dark, and I would come back home. Now, there's two things that I was doing. It's subconsciously, I didn't know it until later in life. I was, one, riding as far as I possibly could to see the possibilities that existed outside of my neighborhood. And two, I was listening to other people's possibilities. I was able to transplant myself to other places in the world. One minute I would be in Staten Island with Wu-Tang Clan, and the next minute I would be in Compton with NWA, and then I would be in Chicago with Twista or Common, and then I would be in Houston with UGK. And all of these, look them up, they're good. So I got to travel to all these places outside of my home, and I felt my home. I could go to Paris and hear people like MC Solar speaking in French and not have any idea what they were saying. But I knew I could feel them. So what happens when we start to feel and not just pay attention to what's on the surface? Throughout my life, I've been able to travel to so many places across the world and interact with so many beautiful people. Many look exactly, well, not exactly like me. Many look like me by skin definition. Many look totally different by skin definition. Many speak the same language, others do not. But what would happen is in all of these different places, I was able to interact with people in big groups. Like right now today, I was able to have the sum total of my life experiences pulled together and put on a platter for people to digest. And I could get response in real time. How am I doing? You make me feel better about myself. So as a performer, you're able to interact with diverse audiences. You're able to do so much more than just writing something and sending it out into the world. If I'm able to reach out to you and interact with you and touch you, I can prove that I'm real. I can prove that I exist. And so many young people just want to prove that they exist. I'm going to show you something. As a teacher, I've been able to work with young people from across the world. I'm the department head of the first fully accredited hip-hop studies program at McNally Smith College of Music. Thank you very much. And I've been able to work with kids from India to Finland to Connecticut, Alabama, all across the United States, all across the world. And they all come with a similar story. Nobody believes that I can do this. Thank you. Nobody believes that I can tell my story in my own voice and for it to be believed and for it to be valid and respected. So here's an example. So that was Ill Wind in theory. So Ill Wind's from Dayton, Ohio, and Theory's from Indiana. And to some people, that's just a silly Hamburger Helper commercial, right? And it is, right? We had a relationship between General Mills and the Hamburger Helper team and McNally Smith College of Music where we worked over 2 semesters to develop original work. and this original work got released on April Fool's Day of this year. That music became the #1 trending topic on Twitter. It was worldwide. It was featured on The Today Show in Time magazine. It was called one of the biggest viral ad campaigns of 2016. It received 2 Cannes Lions Silver Awards in France and helped propel these artists to the next plateau in their life with 10 million listens of their album. So imagine what we could sell if we had support. Right? So think of, what do you want sold? What kind of messages do you want to go throughout the world? And how do you carry those messages where people actually listen to you? I've been able to travel to so many beautiful places and meet so many beautiful people as a diplomat, as someone that is an ambassador of hip-hop as an art form, working in places like Kenema and Freetown, Sierra Leone, with young artists who are all going through the same thing, wanting to be heard and wanting to be respected, and being able to develop their own work and display it back for their community, and finally for them to hear, "You're really good. I never knew you were that good." And for them to be able to feed themselves from their art. To going to Northern Gulu in Uganda and working with HEALS, a health education, literacy, and sports program with former child soldiers that have escaped the Lord's Resistance Army, whose main focus was to be educated and to play. And when they got out of the LRA, what did they want to play the most? Hip-hop. So we started a program with Breakdance Project Uganda that still exists for 6 years now, with young people coming out of Civil War and having something to believe in. And right in our own backyard, being able to go to places like Winona and St. Cloud and work with young people who don't feel like anybody cares. And they're bored to death. And when you're bored, what do you do when you're bored? There's so many options. So ask yourself, how do you connect people to doing what they already can do and what they want to do, rather than forcing them into being someone that they're not? Today, I'm able to use my platform as a vice president of Soul Tools Entertainment, a multimedia company. We do a lot of interactive work through multimedia, whether it's releasing projects or film, and we're able to connect with people across the world through this idea of diplomacy. Traditionally, as you can see, diplomacy is seen as the work of maintaining good relationships between nations, and that's usually done through the diplomats that come from the governments of a nation. And if anybody knows about the United States' relationship with the rest of the world, sometimes we're not always invited. So what would happen if we sent people that had a relationship through the heart? This idea called track 2 diplomacy. In a book called Foreign Policy, according to Freud, track 2 diplomacy refers to non-governmental people coming together to take our loves and our passions and actually build based on them, based on our belief in music, in dance, in art. What could happen if I shared a song with you and a dance with you and I spoke my truth to you? No matter how ugly it was or how beautiful, but as long as it was true, would you believe me? Would you break bread with me? We are in this place in a very critical moment in history. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the news. Like you have a choice. We're at this critical moment where I've never felt such divisiveness such division in my entire life. And it's already hard enough just being me. What are we going to do to make sure that we reconnect with our heart? What are we going to do to make sure that we can share a song, we can share a dance, and we can make new memories for our children to carry on into the future? Thank you.